Good morning, everyone. It's Friday in Fans of the Framework, and good to see everyone here this morning that is signing on. Go ahead and pop something there in the comments to let me know you're here. And welcome to Friday. It's also International Day of Women, so for all you ladies out there, cheers to you, hats off to you. I know you wear lots of hats, you know, mom, aunt, sister, leader, nurse, whatever it is. So hats off to you on this International Day of Women and TGI Friday. So, all right, today's topic in live is models of engagement. So this idea of engagement in leadership is certainly not something that, we own the market on. My goodness, the research out there about engagement and it's important to work and results in the workplace is plentiful. Probably our go-to place in looking at the research on this is Gallup. So, the research is plentiful and profound on the power of engagement and what it contributes to organizations. So, good morning to you, David. Glad to see you here. So, as we get going into this topic today, models of engagement, I just wanted to also just mention that in our framework, at the core of it is creating great strategies and then creating activities in alignment with those strategies and then creating ownership for those strategies. So it's in that ownership piece that engagement really, resides. And, at first, we used to call that part of the framework of that section of on accountability. And so what we realized was that really what those activities were, those strategies were about creating ownership, and that ownership is really engagement plus empowerment plus accountability plus relationships. And so the tactics in kind of that domain of the framework that we call creating ownership is really where engagement resides, coupled with those other things there. So today, when I'm talking about engagement and tactics for engagement, it's hard for me not to really just think about it as ownership. So I might slip into using that term as we talk about this topic. So really the crux of the message today and the conversation today around this is that, engagement is this lovely ideal, and it's only when we act on that ideal that we can get the results that, Gallup and others can show that are the benefits of it, such as better profits, better quality and safety and patient experience, etc. I mean, those things don't just happen because you believe in engagement, right? Or that you aspire to it. You have to put it into action. So there has to be a way for this ideal to come to life. And so, what we recommend for that and what our partners and those in the cohort, in our Nurse Leader Greatness cohort are doing is creating a place, a structure where engagement or ownership can be created. So it gives it a home, let's say, so that you can actually act on that ideal to bring about engagement. So one of the most common, structures that we have, well, in our partner organizations, they all have it. I mean, they all have a structure of engagement at the organization-wide level. So we're going to talk about that, and it's a team structure. So we're going to talk about that as a home for engagement to happen, or a structure or model for engagement to happen. But it actually can happen in other ways too. We're not saying that's the only way it can happen. In fact, it usually isn't the only place where engagement is really being fostered is on the structural team that we help our partners create for their improvement efforts and their transformation efforts. So I want to start by really talking about two places, or two kind of groups of places where engagement can take place. First, if you're a leader, of a department, division, or even the entire organization, you can have a structure for engaging individuals outside of teams. So you can actually, go after engagement. And the reason I would say that that's a model or structure is that you can't just willy-nilly go about it and empower and engage people as individuals per se, without maybe having a systematic process and structure for doing that. Otherwise, it's going to maybe get chaotic. It's going to get crazy on you. And while you're trying to do it for good reasons, it's not really getting the results that you want. So, an example I'll give with that is that, one of the leaders I was coaching recently, she had gotten into, a great process. She did have this ideal for engagement, and she knew that it wasn't just the work of leaders herself to make her department better. So just naturally, this approach happened to her, where she started getting key individuals in her department to be able to step up to assisting with some changes and improvements that needed to happen. So she tapped people on the shoulder once she knew they were passionate about it, interested in it, and asked them to kind of own it and follow it through, right? So she had done this with several different improvement opportunities in her department. And so that's all seemingly well and good and well intended. But to take that to the next level is there has to be a systematic or organized process for how those individuals interact with their peers as they go about this process. Maybe the structure, maybe they need some training and education on how to make change happen, or how to, follow, plan, do, study, adjust. Maybe they need a systematic process for how they engage with the leader. So that, if you had 4 or 5 of these things going on in your department all at once, again, great idea, great process or great idea there, but you got to have the process, because what can happen is the peers around them can start to get fatigued, because this employee is going about making this improvement or this change and getting ideas from their peers in this way, communicating or educating their peers in this way, and this other team member is going about their improvement that they're engaged in this whole other way. And pretty soon you've got this chaotic activity for change. Very well intended, it does involve engagement, but it's disorganized. So having that structure in place. So if leaders are going to take this approach, and we would recommend that, there is some level of this probably going on in any organization at any time, either at a department level, a division level, or even an organization level, is that there really be some thought put to, making sure that these people not only are passionate about what they're working on and that they're interested, but they actually know how to go about the change process, and that it's well coordinated so that the organization, the department, the division, wherever the change is needing to take place, that it is, orchestrated well. Otherwise, these kind of efforts can backfire. And if the employee has a bad experience, or you as the leader have a bad experience with that, then likely you're going to diminish the opportunities for the future for these types of engagement activities to actually flourish and lead to good. So some tactics, for this, really for an individual leader of a division or a department, would be to know what your people are passionate about, right? Know what they're passionate about, so you know who to tap on the shoulder for what. Maybe it's even during rounding, that you're developing that relationship, knowing what people are passionate about. And maybe even in those opportunities, they're coming to you with, issues of equipment, supplies or whatever. And you just, kind of bring it back to them. Hey, how'd you like to kind of champion this for our department? And so rounding is a great opportunity for these kind of things to take spark. But there has to be that systematic process of how they communicate and interact and train their peers, and how you oversight and engage and empower and keep all these things kind of put together collectively as a package, so it's not just chaotically done throughout your department. And then also, to really decide how to narrow that focus of how much is being worked on at any one time, and is it the right priority, things to be worked on. So maybe there are, a plethora of things that could be better in your department, and maybe you have lots of employees that are wanting and desiring to help with that. But again, you need to narrow the focus for good success of how much change can happen at once. So really making sure it's aligned with those key strategies of either the organization, those key goals that are cascaded down to you, that you really focus those improvement efforts on those things, and kind of narrow the focus of how much this is happening all at once. So that's kind of a way to engage individuals, but again, making it so that it seems like it's packaged in a model or a structure that's well thought out, so that it doesn't backfire on you and cause the individuals involved or those affected by it to get frustrated and think that process doesn't work, and then you actually inhibit the ability to engage others. So the other mention that I had is outside of individuals and engaging individuals one-on-one, is that you can engage entire teams. So you can take a group of individuals and engage them in some sort of team model to empower them, engage them to contribute beyond their day-to-day job description. And so, as I mentioned at the start, this is a core component of how we go about our work with our partner organizations. And it's a core component, actually the first phase of our Nurse Leader Greatness cohort, is to determine, what structure are we going to use, what model are we going to use to take what's really important to be worked on, decide who the right people are to work on it. And again, these aren't places to rehab people, to take the right people, to put them together, to focus on that, and then for them to actually have, not just know what they're going to focus on and who's going to do it, but how to go about it to get it accomplished. And so, these kind of efforts of using a team structure to engage people can again be done at a department level, it can be done at a division level, and it can be done at an entire organization level. So for instance, in our partner organizations where the entire organization is going through wide sweeping transformation to elevate their culture and create a culture where results can flourish, is that we have a core team structure that we put into place, and that core structure has an oversight of a steering team, and then underneath, kind of coordinated by that steering team, is a series of employee-driven teams. And that's the model we use for engagement, is to tap employees on the shoulder to contribute. It is not just the work of leaders to contribute to the organization's core strategies and goals. It is the work of everyone. And sometimes, people, when we're setting up in our partnerships and they're setting up this structure, they kind of have that question mark when they're populating these teams, these very highly purposed teams, these very highly aligned teams with the core strategies of the organization. They really wonder, will employees say yes to that opportunity? And I think sometimes there's this, mindset that we have is, can we really tap employees, already busy employees on the shoulder and ask them to do one more thing? Will they contribute beyond their day-to-day shift? And our experience with this is yes, and definitely yes. Employees actually, that we talk to that are on these kind of teams really feel privileged and honored to contribute beyond, just their essential functions of whatever role they serve in the organization. It may become the most favorite thing they do about their job is contributing in this way. I said this to some new partners that we've been working with recently and helping them get these teams up and going. And I shared with them that, there was there's always, when we circle back and meet with these teams, there's always amazing stories about the benefits to the individual employee for participating in one of these teams. One gentleman in particular comes to mind where really with tears in his eyes, he said, "I'm a better father, I'm a better grandfather, I'm a better husband, I'm a better person because I serve on this team." And so this team provided a structure for him and others to make a difference, right? I know his job day to day, and he knew his job day to day that he did made a difference, but this added this extra element of purpose and joy to his work. So these teams are a place for those kind of transformations to happen in individuals as well as the organization. So, but this idea of having a structure of teams is kind of the core structure that allows us to engage employees and leaders in new ways to contribute towards very clear focuses of core strategies, and they're highly purposed. But you could also have teams that are very short-term or ad hoc that are used just for a singular project or improvement. Some of those might be a 12-week team, an A3 team, a PDSA team that's really focused on maybe one problem in a department, a division, or an organization. And so having that structure to engage and rally people together around a common cause, whether it's a standing team, like in our partner organizations where they're highly purposed, and these teams are going to go on for years and years and years to contribute to their organizations in really key ways. There could be these ad hoc teams that are created very highly purposed for some key priorities of improvement in the organization. And again, that can be done at various levels in the organization. Some of the leaders in our nurse leader cohort, some are frontline department leaders, and some are chief nursing officers, head of the entire nursing division. And what's exciting about the cohort is that what we're seeing is that the first phase of that is to determine what structure will they use to engage their people on those individual levels, on a team level, one team, several teams, those kind of things. And what's exciting is they're all kind of going about it in different ways, but it's thought out, it's purposeful, it's got the system behind it, or we're developing the system behind it so that these efforts can really flourish and get amazing results to happen versus struggle and then cause you to believe that this isn't the way that we can engage people, and that yes, it's just left to the work of leaders to make improvements happen. So the key message here today is that engagement, while it's an amazing ideal, and it is, and there's plentiful research about and profound research about what happens when we have a highly engaged workforce. If you have no structure, no process to engage them and to support them being successful in that, then this great ideal can't come to life, right? And so if we want, and we know it's the great process for doing that, if we want people to be engaged and be owners in the success of the organization, no matter what role they hold day to day and what position they hold today, we need a place for that to happen. We need a home, we need a structure, we need a systematic process. And so some of the efforts we see where there's really low engagement, even though there's been attempts to tap people on the shoulder, put teams together, there isn't that foundational system for prioritizing, for engaging, for oversight, for communication, for training on a very coordinated level. And hence, sometimes that just causes this ideal to implode, and you have a low engaged workforce, and therefore you don't maximize the benefits that you can gain through engaging others to contribute. So thank you for your time today. Hope you've had a great week. Hope you have some great plans for rest and relaxation over the weekend to recharge. as a kind of a call to action, you might want to think about how you're engaging your employees, either individually, in a department, division, the organization, whether it's in teams, whether they're ad hoc teams or standing teams, and really understand, do you have the systematic foundational pieces in place for them to thrive and succeed? Or are they struggling in certain ways? Is their interaction with your department or the organization where they're supposed to help make a difference, is that struggling in some way? So we hope you've given some thought to this, and will give more thought to this as you continue to champion change in your organization and where you work. If you're needing help with that, we have two main ways that we can help with that. To help you assess, plan, and execute on your strategies, create alignment to them, and create ownership for them. And that's at an organizational level through a partnership. That's at a division level through a partnership, or it's through our new nurse leader cohort. That new cohort is forming in April. And so that cohort will, again, get you some real specific time with us where we can customize and evaluate and help you evaluate where your biggest priorities are and what model or structure for engaging others to contribute might work best for you. And then we spend the rest of the time in that cohort maximizing and elevating your leadership to engage, but also these teams to be able to contribute at even higher levels. So if you're interested in any of those things, it is at our website, capstoneleadership.net, that you can check out more information on that. Also, as you know, we have training events all across the country. Our leadership summits are coming up. We teach a lot of the solutions that can be put in the hands of employee-driven teams. We teach a lot about leadership that's engaging. And it is at our C-suite retreats in Arizona coming up in April, actually later in March, sorry about that. The summit's in April and our C-suite's coming up in March and June, where the entire topic of those C-suite events is about creating ownership in the strategies, and of course this idea of using teams and engaging others to contribute so that we do it with them and not to them as we embark upon our greatness efforts. So again, hello to all you ladies out there, International Day of Women. Hey, my hat's off to you, by the way. I'm one of those people too, but and I'm celebrating myself today. But I was thinking about so many times when we're working with our partners or we're at a training event, and our profession is healthcare is pretty dominated by females. And so, what's interesting about that is, we see them, getting up every hour to go to the bathroom during training because they're 8 months pregnant, or, needing a lactation room because, they're here at 2-3 days of training and they're away from their babies and whatever. So, hats off to you, and they do it every day at work, so, really just hats off to those ladies out there that we see that just rise to the effort of being both, a healthcare employee, a healthcare leader, and someone who is also a mom and all those other things too. So have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll see you next week in live.